Okay, today is January the 12th, Friday, 2024. It's about midday. Air temperature is about 22 degrees centigrade, about 74 Fahrenheit. And this is part two of Medaka outdoors in mild winter conditions. And I'll start with the unheated tubs that I have with my Medaka in them. And first of all, I have been sorting out the Medaka a bit into different colours, different types in the various tubs. Let's sit down. There. And you can see this tub I've turned upside down. I've emptied it. It was leaking a bit, so I've decided just to try and stop the leaks. All these tubs before had palm trees or hydrangeas or hibiscus in them, so they've all used to have drain holes in the bottom with cracks because they're very old. And I've patched them up with two-part epoxy, and this one just needs a little bit more patching up, I think. All the others, though, have been watertight for a long time now, so that's fine. Now, I call this mild winter because where I live, there are only about 15 days out of 100 in December, January, February, when temperatures fall below 15 degrees, which is about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And lowest temperatures are around 6 degrees centigrade, but that's only maybe 6, 7, 8 days in that 100 days. Let's turn around a bit and see how these Medaka are doing. Now, below 15 degrees centigrade, the Medaka's metabolism slows down. They eat less and they move less, and they probably stop eating and moving when below about 10 degrees centigrade. So I try and keep temperatures above 10. These tubs aren't heated, but I put them in an area with a microclimate. You can see at the back there's a stone wall which gets the sun most of the day. That would absorb the heat and then radiate out at night when temperatures fall. It's also protected from the wind here in the winter, so that's fine. Maybe in the summer I'll move the tubs back somewhere else. Also, the tubs, they're about 1 inch, ½ inch thick stoneware, earthenware, which insulates them. And compared to the black plastic storage boxes, which are sometimes used as tubs, they've got a smaller surface area, therefore they will lose less heat. So ideal for winter conditions, I think. Now, in a lot of areas in Japan where Medaka originated, the winters are much harsher and temperatures fall down to or below freezing. And outdoor Medaka may become dormant for 1 or 2 months when the metabolism reduces so much that they stop eating and moving. I've sometimes seen it mentioned that this dormancy period is good for Medaka because they're rested and it may extend their life expectancy. However, I tend to doubt this is correct. Only plump, fit, healthy fish are like to survive this, and then even then it's going to weaken them, and it's going to take them time to recover their strength when temperatures warm up in the spring. So I reckon many elderly, weaker, juvenile Medaka are likely to die in this sort of situation. Now, I fully agree a rest period in the winter is good for Medaka, but I think it's better to try and keep temperatures above 10 degrees centigrade, 50 degrees Fahrenheit if possible, which is similar to my mild winter conditions. And sometimes it seems to me that many assume that Medaka came from areas in Japan which have relatively harsh winters, weeks of sub-zero temperatures, and so that in nature all wild Medaka go through this period of dormancy every winter. In fact, there are natural populations of Medaka throughout central and southern areas and islands in Japan, and much of the southern area it doesn't have such harsh winters as we normally see on videos, YouTube videos with snow and everything else. And in fact, if you go down to Okinawa, which have got their own natural population of Medaka, that's subtropical. And very few days, if any, actually gets down to 0 temperatures. Now, in these red and white tubs, in these tubs, these unheated tubs, I have my toughest, they call them toughest, Medaka. These are red and white. These are the red. I can move down here and we can see the white, which have been sorted out. They're still looking lively. Let me see what the water temperature is at the moment. Where are we? Where's the thermometer? So as you can see, it's about 18 degrees because it got down to about 16 degrees last night. It'll take a while to warm up to meet the air temperature. About 22 degrees is at the moment. Now I've got 2 other types of Medaka, apart from various assorted miscellaneous Medaka, which I don't know really what type they are. But I call these my less tough Medaka. They're not really delicate. They're whatever. They would probably survive out here, but I don't have so many of those, or the ones I want to breed from. So I'm keeping them under cover. They're still outdoors, but under cover in plastic storage tubs with aquarium heaters. And I'll go and have a look at them now. Okay, so this is where the tubs are under cover. This one here has Yosakura. Right, they're all a bit scared of the camera. There's about 20 in here, I think. And these are heated with an aquarium heater. And it's kept at about 20 degrees centigrade, which is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Definitely don't want to go higher than that. 20 degrees is fine, as long as I don't want to risk them going down to say 6 degrees. And then let's see if it will focus. These Yosakura, they have the lame on the back. Lame is like they have reflective scales along their back, so we call them glitter or sparkles or whatever. But the normal term I think it used is lame. So they've got like a darker skin background and orange heads, although there are many which don't. These are, you know, the offspring of the parents, and maybe a third of them don't breed through. And the others, if there are any, if they want to come out, they're quite shy, not easy to see. I think these are called nishiki, which I think means brocade, something like brocade. They're normally Medaka with like black patches, black patterns on them. So you know they get black and white or red and black. These are the red and black variety. They're not that spectacular. They don't stand out very well, but they're quite. Whether it's focusing or not, I don't know. Some of them a bit orange, some of them are darker. But they're staying there maybe for another few weeks. By the time get to March, the weather will have unlikely to have very low temperatures again, so I'll move them back to tubs outside. Um, no, so they're kept at 20 degrees, so it's that they're not they're having a rest. Normally, they like, say, between 22, 25 degrees, which is up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. At 20 degrees, they're still active, but they're not breeding. Yeah, your sakura, they're not so shy as the others. Um, and what else do we have here? Oh, next is a tank where is my storage tank for plants, underwater plants, aquarium plants. So if I'm breeding and when newly hatched fry, put them in some clean water with some stems of these plants. So this is hornwort. That provides them initially with a bit of food for the first few days, any microorganisms that might be on the plants. And what I also have down the bottom on the ground is another black storage tub. This one's a bit bigger, and the red and white Medaka were breeding up until middle of December because the temperatures were that high, and so there are a lot of fry and very young juveniles in here from the red and white. They won't survive temperatures down to the low temperatures, so again they've got a heater, keeps it about 20 degrees centigrade. Probably at that temperature they're not going to grow very much. You want to get up above, say, 22 degrees centigrade, which is what, 74 Fahrenheit, for them to grow. And okay, so there's one quite big tub, and then which is heated, and then the really young, very newly hatched fry are in another tub I put inside the big one. Otherwise they might get eaten by the juveniles, and that keeps the water temperature the same. So I don't know, probably can't see any very young fry in there. Very young. In here you can see more all swimming about. It means I don't have to put another heater in, I just have one heater. Yeah, they're all swimming about here. They've all got the floating plants, and this one in fact has got two small sponge filters just to keep them running. It doesn't need two, but just very low bubble rate. Doesn't really create any current. So if the Medaka want a quieter life without any bubble filters, then come down to this end of the tank, this end of the tub, instead of the whole thing. And I mean, I think these two in the top tubs up there, I call them more delicate. I think they'd survive probably out without any heaters, but I found compared to the red and white that I have, which I call my tough ones, they seem less tough. I mean, for several reasons. These two, the Yosakura and the Nishiki, they start breeding later in the year. They red and white will breed at the earliest opportunity. These other two types will start breeding later in the year, and they stop earlier. As I said, the red and white was still breeding and still producing eggs up until mid-December. The other two, the Yosakura and Nishiki, stopped in October. So, and the females produce fewer eggs. So, and when temperatures start to drop, they start becoming less active earlier than the red and whites. So they start eating less active than red and whites if it goes below 20. Whereas the red and whites will keep on moving and eating much more at these lower temperatures. And the other thing is, I find that the fry are more delicate. The survival rate of newly hatched fry is much lower than the red and whites. So that's why I, call them less tough. But this may be my fault. Maybe I didn't look after these two types as well as I looked after the red and white. Also, I mean, my Medaka don't have any pedigree. They're not, from well-established breeders or anything like that. They're just whatever I could get. So, maybe the strain of these two types that I've got, the parents maybe were less healthy, or maybe that's another reason. I don't know. Anyway, it's easy enough to keep them up here with heaters, just to keep them 20 degrees, 18 to 20 degrees, and they're surviving very well. And as I say, the newly hatched fry and juveniles down here, they wouldn't survive, definitely wouldn't survive if the temperatures go down below 10 degrees. Even if they get below 15, they probably, a lot of them wouldn't survive. The plants are looking good as well. So everybody seems to be happy down here. Okay, that's about it, about mild winter conditions. I've been busy sorting out my in-ground pond. Maybe I'll do a video on that sometime with my Medaka. Okay.